Hey guys, it's your boy M.K.S here, back in with part three of my plans, or some of my plans at least, a few of my plans out of many for September. So hopefully it'll be a positive month. Apparently the weather's not going to last very nice, as nice as it is at the moment, unfortunately. So I hope that's wrong. I hope the weather will be better than predicted. Unfortunately, August was a miserable month when it was in terms of weather, as I said before. But anyway, sorry, I always talk about the weather, but. I'm one of the few people who goes out in a jacket when it's really warm, so I don't really feel the warmth that much. I'm normally quite cold. Anyway, I've been to the gym. You have to now book a session, like you get 50 minutes, so you have to book it like at least a day in advance or something like that. And I've booked also for Friday to keep the momentum going, and also Saturday to go swimming, and Sunday. So hopefully I'll keep up with the exercise, which obviously during quarantine I didn't really do much. I do walking anyway, and I sometimes use dumbbells and lift those dumbbells and all that. But other than that, I haven't really been keeping as fit as I did before. I haven't been swimming for ages. In fact, when the lady asked me, like, yeah, apparently you have to book a certain lane, which you're going to use, and I said, I'll book for the middle lane because I haven't swam for a while, so I'm going to be unfit. But anyway, sorry, that's probably barely trivial info, but that's just something about how I've planned to keep fit and keep active and that sort of thing. But as I said before, as I've just said, I do go for a lot of walks. Yeah, and I kind of messed up a little bit because as I left my house, I noticed the upstairs windows were open, and I thought, should I go back and close them, or should I carry on going? I carried on going, and then halfway along my way to walking to the gym, because I don't really drive anymore, but the gym's not too far from me anyway. So part of keeping fit. But yeah, sorry. So as I was on the way, I thought maybe I should have left the upstairs windows open, but so I kind of was feeling a bit anxious about the house. So because it's only my dog at home, but if an intruder broke in, he can probably still get in, or they could still get in. But I thought if I should perhaps go back to my house to make sure that I don't know what just happened there. Sorry, something just happened with the live stream. But anyway, so I thought, sorry for laughing, but I thought that I'm sure like the clock said a minute, and then it went down. So I hope that recorded properly what I just said. But yeah, so I was in the gym, and I thought you're supposed to have like 50 minutes, which is like booked, but because of quarantine and all that, they book it for a certain amount of time. But I finished after about half an hour or so. So unfortunately, I didn't quite do as much exercise as I planned, but I still like managed to do a fair bit of exercise, and it gets a bit boring after a while, like exercise. So I used a fair bit of equipment, so hopefully I gave myself a bit of a workout, like training and all that. It's only recently, like only a couple of years or so ago, when I joined the gym. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with my list because I've probably been waffling, but just talking about some of my exercise. Maybe in the future I'll talk about like what sort of exercise I do at the gym, or maybe even try and get some tips if you can leave some in the comment section about martial arts to learn, or training that I could do to keep be stronger or fitter or faster or whatever, or what football training or any sort of training or tips that you could have at soccer for any Americans out there. And maybe like if you leave comments like to inspire me or other people who watch my videos, if anyone out there watches them, it'd be great like to have a place where we share information or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with this list and carry on. I know I have this bad habit really in a way, kind of doing lists of 30, so I haven't really got a huge amount to say, but I thought I'd finish the list because of my patterns and that, as I often do. But yeah, so number 21, again, talking about some of my previous things I was talking about, ideas I've been talking about, like I'd love to see indigenous people from the Americas come together and work together, pay the least amount of taxes, get funding from banks or angel investors or whoever else can support them. I'd also love to support their inventors or any other projects, especially business people or entrepreneurs, or list the voice of Native Americans or Native people of the Americas, indigenous, whichever term you prefer. So I hope if you are indigenous, if you're an indigenous person from any of the Americas and you manage to watch this video and you can comment, please do comment and talk about your aspirations or what you would like to see for indigenous, native, or whichever term you prefer, people of the Americas, again, all of the Americas. And I hope to share this with groups on Facebook. Number 22, in the future, I'd love to see what ways we can come together to empower Indigenous people of the Americas, like how we can connect them together, and also like connect friends of the Indigenous peoples together, so that they can also empower Indigenous people in the Americas and look at what rights they should have, as I talked about before. Hopefully on Thursdays, I'm going to talk as much as I can about what political rights or support they can get, which I've talked a little bit about today, but especially on Thursday, like my political dreams and goals for Indigenous people from the Americas. Some will be list form, some will be in list form like this, and some won't be. Again, as ever, I'd love to hear your feedback and what things can be improved for Indigenous people from the Americas. Again, especially hearing from Indigenous people from the Americas. And I hope you'll share this video with any possible Indigenous people from the Americas, especially YouTubers or anyone who is an Indigenous person from the Americas who watches YouTube. And I think it'd be interesting to see if there are any from like places like, as I talked about before, like Brazil, Argentina, Peru, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, or anywhere else like that. Anywhere else like that, where how many have access to YouTube and how many watch YouTube and that sort of thing. And it probably that could empower them as well, because maybe advertisers or people like that will want to, or businesses will want to support Indigenous people if they see that it will be good for their PR, or that they see that it's a united community that supports each other and that sort of thing. Number 23, again, I'd love to see angel investors, banks, businesses, potential mentors, and other such people supporting Indigenous communities, and like, let's say from the Americas, and like giving them access to funding to start their own businesses or other such projects, and look at how much funding they could have, and like maybe even there could be like a Dragon's Den or Shark Tank or whatever. We call it the Dragon's Den here in the UK, but in America it'll be like Shark Tank. I think in Canada it's also the Dragon's Den. But there could be specific versions for Indigenous people to get investment from. Maybe there could be special versions of the show to get investment from people like Damon John and Kevin O'Leary and Mark Cuban and Barbara Corcoran, people like that. And maybe there could also be like the Indigenous American version of The Apprentice as well, things like that. Number 24, again, hopefully I'll provide a voice for Indigenous people to network together and have their voices heard, and that sort of thing, and celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day and find out about Indigenous people's views and Indigenous Peoples Day and that sort of thing, and possibly talk about arguments for and against Indigenous Peoples Day or Columbus Day and things like that. Number 25, again, I'd love to connect together Indigenous people from the Americas, and maybe even like with Indigenous Australasians, to like sort of empower and support each other, and maybe what I call the four, also supporting Indigenous people from the Americas and looking at what rights they could have. And again, whatever support they have in America, they could have the same sort of support across the Americas, like in Brazil, Argentina, or those countries, as I previously stated. Number 26, hopefully again they'll be reparated for any bad things that have happened to them, and get as much political and financial support as possible, and again support to realise their dreams or aspirations. Hopefully many will be in the law, the government, politicians, senators, police force, maybe even training up Indigenous American lawyers and that sort of thing to give them rights, even judges perhaps. Like it would be great to see Indigenous people in the Americas becoming judges, so that lawyers, police, law enforcement, and things like that. And if I manage to empower people, Indigenous people from the Americas, maybe Indigenous Australasians can also like learn what's worked for them, so they can learn what's worked for each other. Number 27, again, hopefully businesses that support Indigenous people from the Americas will be supported with their PR being improved and things like that. Number 28, hopefully at least acknowledging Indigenous people from the Americas will help to encourage other people to support them and to support each other and see what are the best ways to empower them and turn their negative situations into positives and things like that, Godspeed. Number 29, I hope to encourage as many people as possible, especially from what I call the four, people of colour, and whoever I can get to support them, I hope to get as many, whoever I can get to support them, if you know what I mean, as many people as possible to support them, basically. And number 30, again, I'd love to hear from your ideas, and sorry if I was waffling, and hopefully my ideas made a bit of sense and hopefully you found them interesting, and please share any ideas that I might not have covered that you can think of. Again, if you're an Indigenous person from the Americas, answer a call, you know any Indigenous people from the Americas, please get either yourself or them to write in the comments section and let me know what you think. And I'm out. Peace and love.